I just want to clarify some things before we get started. Every woman is not built for the great responsibility of being a first lady.
Pastor Lee Curtis Childs faces allegations of misconduct. His megachurch may never be the same.
Lee Curtis and we're going to get to the other side.
You there? Yeah, with the big old microphone. Come in closer, son. You gonna see what all the fuss is about. Showtime.
What's up? Fresh is our turn, baby.
Lee Curtis is a talent, a star.
Oh, boy.
We can edit around that, right? This is gonna chronicle the ultimate comeback. I'm Rocky up in this fight.
Rocky didn't win.
But he did win in Rocky 2. Lord, baby, how many times I gotta tell you, get past the first movie? That was all set up.
He is just so wrong.
This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. Coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And yesterday, Saturday, apparently $3 National Movie Theater Day, $3 at the movies, was yesterday. So if you didn't go to the movies Saturday, you're screwed. Back to full price. But I went ahead and saw the new movie that came out. Kind of a smaller film. You've just seen the trailer. It is Honk, If You Love Jesus, Save Your Soul. Is that the title? Yeah, Honk, If You Love Jesus, Save Your Soul. And this stars Sterling K. Brown and Regina Hall, both incredible actors, doing great performances in this movie, giving it their absolute best, with, you know, what could be considered at times maybe, you know, a bit of a blasphemous kind of take on religion and preaching, you know, and the church, etc. But without further ado, remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's junk. I don't recommend it. And for Honk, If You Love Jesus, Save Your Soul, it is a shock a thumbs down. Let me just say, I nearly fell asleep in this movie 3 times. I had to I had to shake myself to wake up in it. You look at this trailer. I mean, you know, I had seen the trailers before watching some other movies a few weeks ago, and I was kind of excited. It's like, this looks so funny. I mean, you know, it's like where they're standing with the sign, trying to get people in their church, you know, saying, yeah, you got to shake it for Jesus. Yeah, shake that thing, you know, and kind of dancing around on the street. And it's like right away I thought of that Genesis song, was this like Jesus, you know me, or something, you know my name. And it's like, you know, which in itself is a spoof. If you've ever seen that video, that Genesis video, I encourage you to look it up on YouTube. It's so funny. Even the lyrics in it, it's like, I've been talking to Jesus all my life. He's been telling me that everything's going to be all right, you know. You know, and essentially this movie, you know, you even see it in this trailer, that he's been accused of some crimes. Sterling K. Brown's character, the preacher, the pastor of this mega church. Basically, this seems to be a throwback. You know, right away you think of the 80s of television evangelists, getting all this money from all over the world, from people tuning in on TV, watching it from, you know, 1,000-member congregation at their church. You know, they got a humongous church, and he's like saying, yeah, I got Maseratis, I got, you know, all these Prada suits, and, you know, spending thousands of dollars. I got a helicopter and all this stuff, but it's not my helicopter, it's God's helicopter for you, you know. And so, I find that kind of stuff hilarious. I mean, you look at the Genesis video and it's hilarious. And right away I said, oh, this is going to be so funny. This is going to be a great comedy. I'm going to love this movie. And it's like, oh, shock a thumbs down so hard. What looks like it should be a tongue-in-cheek comedy, on the implications of, say like 80s televangelism, exploitation in the black neighborhood by the church, taking advantage of your constituents, just stuff like that. Turns out to be that they're trying to tell a really felt, hard-hitting story of sexual abuse in the church. It comes out pretty quickly in this movie, so it's not much of a spoiler. But they're not talking about, he's not taken down from his congregation and trying to rebuild it again due to financial collapse of the IRS coming in. And it's like, we find this as all, impropriety financially, which is what I was thinking, which is what, Tammy Faye Baker and usually, a lot of those other preachers like that, it's always some kind of sex thing that brings it down as well. But then, looking at the finances, that's kind of seals the deal of their fate. It turns out to be, it looks at the hard state of reality of the church, religion, religious leaders, abusing children, sexually abusing children. Maybe Sterling K. Brown's character's dealing with his own sexuality as possibly leaning towards gay as he's embracing some of his younger members of the church, these young men barely out of high school. The only thing that saves him kind of is that they're of adult age, they're over 18, and that kind of saves him a little bit, but he still pays out millions of dollars in settlement money to try to hush things up. But the damage is done, and this is kind of a documentary, a pseudo documentary of how he's going to reclaim his greatness. But it, and it's got some funny skits in there, but I was not prepared, and the trailer does not prepare you for how hard hitting, and painful this journey becomes. Some people may enjoy it. The theater wasn't packed when I saw it, and there was a lot of talking in between. Still a lot of gasps, at some of the implications that are presented in this movie. I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but, and then it focuses on Regina Halls, how she's trying to forgive her husband, continue to move on with her husband, as she slowly begins to realize that her husband's not really into her that much anymore, and moving towards, a change in his own sexuality, something that she hadn't realized before, and being unsatisfied in this relationship despite all of the money, and then come to the conclusion at the end that they're never going to regain the status that they once had. And basically she, and it's all her husband's fault, essentially. So the movie really ends on a bummer. It kind of starts off a little bit funny, but then right away it takes the plunge into these very serious issues, which, like I said, the trailer doesn't prepare you for at all. And, you know, your expectation of a funny, ha 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 kind of comedy, maybe like an Austin Powers, or maybe, you know, a better Love Guru kind of a thing, whereas, you know, this pastor's and his wife, you know, yeah, you know, you're thinking it's like, okay, nothing too serious, maybe financial, you know, disregard with the church money, and they're going to come back from that. With all these jokes and, you know, shaking for the Lord and all this stuff. Just, you know, all the jokes after you find out the seriousness of these allegations or these crimes that you know, Sterling K. Brown's character does, the comedy just begins to fall flat, because it's like, this is a very serious issue and you can't really laugh at this in this manner. And it's like, ooh, you know, which is probably what they were going for, you know, to really push the seriousness of this and the issues and bring them to the light. But then also, you know, you're kind of torn between Regina Hall wants to stand by her husband, and her faith in God is in question now because of that. And then she slowly begins, you know, the blinders kind of come off and she sees what her husband truly is, but yet she's no angel either, having, you know, spent thousands of dollars on hundreds of hats and shoes and, you know, fabulous fashion outfits, all for, you know, display on the show of, you know, the show of the church. And you even see it, it's like, it's showtime, you know, that you know, that it's more of a show, and that these people aren't really as pious as they'd like their members, their church members, to believe. And then throw in that there's a new up-and-coming church rivaling them, taking advantage of this lull that, you know, Sterling K. Brown and Regina Hall's church is in right now, and stealing a lot of their members. You know, and who knows? I mean, they seem to be on the up and up, but also, you know, there's still a little bit of backstabbing. They're kind of sort of kicking, you know, Sterling K. Brown and Regina Hall's character when they're down. So it's like, it's hard to feel good about that church and these new pastors as well. So it's like, who do you root for in this movie? And you're not really shown the victims too much, and even when they are shown, they're not shown in like a great light. So, you know, who you think you're rooting for or you're laughing at turns out to be not so funny throughout this movie, when it's geared up through the trailers as a, you know, what you would expect as a comedy. It really kind of bummed me out. And even at the end, it ends on a sour note with this movie, which it should, given the, you know, again, the seriousness of the issue of the church scandals of sexual abuse, etc. You know, and not just, you know, financial impropriety with church members' money. So totally not what I expected. You know, had they marketed it maybe as more of a serious film, maybe I could have been more on board with it. But right now, shaka thumbs down. They just kind of miss what I think they were going for. And when they put out the trailer, it's going to bring a lot of people in thinking it's one thing, and it turns out to be something completely different, which is going to put people off for this movie. You know, again, I thought, you know, if there were concerns with these social issues and the church issues, that they could have been addressed, but in a comedic way, and maybe you'd, you know, it would be one of those where it's like, oh, you're right, you know, he's like a comedy, and then he realizes the error of his ways and he becomes a better person, etc. But, you know, ultimately, you know, you're kind of let down in this movie that could have had so much potential. All right, so again, Honk, if you love Jesus, save your soul. is a shock a thumbs down. If you're interested later in watching it, just wait till streaming. It's not really anything for the box office right now. All right. Mahalo so much, and aloha.